Family Consumer Sciences aspect of OSU Extension, which is housed over in Human Sciences. We're a partnership with the College of Education and Human Ecology. So some of our faculty who work in that program or have split appointments are here. Sonia Illick, who works in food safety, and Irene Hatsu, who works in food security. So they're new faculty members to the department. But logic models are just a normal part of what we use, and I don't know how long logic models have been around, but I probably have been using it for about 20 years. The other aspect of my work is I give lead to the OSU Cares program to support partnerships between OSU Extension and the rest of the university. And the OSU Cares grants, we're going to announce those early next week, that call for proposals is out, along with the service learning grants and the university-wide outreach and engagement grants. And they're going to be due February 28th, so that's another grant program that is out there. With OSU Cares, we have always encouraged that you can do a logic model with it, and I've reviewed hundreds of those proposals, well, lots of hundreds of those proposals in the last 15 years. And I hear from, like Richard said, I hear from reviewers when they're reviewing those, if there's a logic model, they can look at that, that gives them a sense of what's going on, and then when they read through it, it really helps the grant proposal make sense to them. The other piece is I have done logic models as parts of teams, and yes, it's very helpful for your team as you're putting your proposal together, but what is so helpful is if it's a multiple year project and you have a team that is varied, especially a multi-state team that I've been recently working with, going back to that logic model is so valuable 2 years into the project to say, hey, this is what we agreed to do. And are we on target, whether it's a research project or whatever it may be. So I really encourage you to consider that. Give you two resources, first of all, which we've used. This is a website, and we have a handout with that address on it as well. It's a CIFAR Coalition on Youth Families at Risk, but it's a CIFAR website, which you create an account there, and it walks you through a series of questions to build a logic model. It's very helpful for you, especially if you're a team, to work through that process. What it prints out is not very pretty, but it includes all the aspects of the logic model. The other piece, which I've used extensively and which is very, very valuable, the CIFAR one also, they have a great video on there. They also have teaching tools that go with it. So there's a great 5-minute video I watched last night on there, which I've seen before. And it just walks through what a logic model is, why you want to use it. So there's some good teaching tools with that. This is a Wisconsin site, University of Wisconsin Extension site. It gives you also all kinds of templates to do a logic model. It's in an Excel format. It'll give it to you in a Word format. It's very valuable to end up using. So I would encourage you to go to either of those sites and end up using those. Here's an example of a logic model that we put together for an ACRI grant that I had, was involved with. And as you can see, it lists the inputs, the outcomes, outputs and the outcomes, as well as at the top it lists the purpose, so you identify that. And then on the flip side of it, it continues that, but it also includes assumptions and external factors. So when you're putting that logic model together, you want to put what your purpose is, all those activities, efforts that you're going to do, what the inputs are going to be. So, grad students, faculty time, dollars that you're going to need, needs assessments, whatever that may be. You'll put what your outcomes will be in your outputs with that, or outputs and then outcomes. But the key piece that has really, I've learned over the years with logic models is you do not start on the left-hand side, you start on the right-hand side of developing your logic model. Here's one, you have a copy of that on the flip side of the sheet, which we've given to you, is to really, when you're developing that logic model, is to start on the right side of what the impact is that you want to have. What is that outcome? what's the objective, what's the result that you want to have with whatever you're working on, whether it's a research project or an outreach and engagement effort, whatever it may be. But start on that right-hand side, because what you should be driven by in terms of putting this together is the purpose or the need that you see, and then what change you want as a result of it. Everything should be driven by that, not by what activities you're going to do. So you start on the right-hand side and then work your way back. And I think that's a very important piece to think about with this. I have reviewed so many grant proposals over the years in which things were not aligned. What they identified as their purpose, they would then identify activities, they then identify what their inputs were going to be, their outcomes, all of that sort of thing, and their evaluation that went with it, everything. But it was not aligned. They would have what, and I come largely from the world of outreach and engagement, so the impact you're having in communities. So the objective may be to increase the reading, improve the reading skills of fourth graders. But the activities that they had were not ones that were necessarily going to make that change. What the outcomes that they expected were not necessarily items that were going to contribute to an increased reading scores. So pieces were not aligned with it. That's one of the things I also really like about logic models, is it forces you to align your project. And that sounds very simple, sounds very logic, and all of us are highly educated people in this room, and we think, oh, of course, everybody does that. But with the hundreds of grant proposals I've read that have been submitted by highly educated people from this university, it doesn't necessarily happen. So I think that's a very important piece of the logic model, is it forces you to align your project. It puts it together on a very clear sheet of paper, and it's very concise so that you can use it in terms of putting your proposal together, but you can also use it throughout your project, so to make sure that your proposal, what you're doing, and the outcomes that you're having is what you had envisioned when you started the project. The other thing that I always think about when it comes to logic models is when I worked on my PhD, I don't know if your key advisor may have said this to you as well. My advisor kept pushing me that what I had as my vision for my dissertation had to fit on a cocktail napkin. Anybody else have their advisor tell them that?
I thought it was 5 minutes in the elevator.
Yeah. 5 minutes in the elevator would do it too.
With a napkin.
With a napkin. Now, he did let me go to an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper to draw my diagram, but he forced me to really think of this in terms of how was it going to fit onto a small sheet of paper, because up until he forced me to do that, I was all over the board and had lines going here, there, and everywhere. But he forced me to push it down so that I had a project that I could really achieve. To me, the logic model is the same thing. It forces you to put that vision together so that you can map it out, so that you can end up making sure that you implement what your vision was for them. Okay? Any questions? Great, thank you.